Beautiful sights and sounds of diversity there from across the world.
Color. I just see color everywhere. And
it's beautiful.
Something comes to my mind. That means if there's color in our culture, that means there's a mixture of everything. So we shouldn't let one out. We should just,
imagine if everywhere you go, you see white.
That would, oh my.
Or blue.
Oh my.
That would,
it's going to be so boring.
Boring, exactly. That's the word
boring.
For it.
Oh.
Boring.
nice.
Welcome back. It's still the Big Body Show here on BCOS television. And it's time for conversation right here. Before we went on that break, we told you we'll be discussing cultural diversity for development on the show. And our guest is here.
Yes, our guest is Dr. Olayinka Akunle. He's a socialist, a researcher, and also a lecturer. There's something unique about him. How will I use the word?
I was going through that profile.
I saw your profile. Okay. We have a whole lot to learn today. You're welcome on the show.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you.
Great to have you on the show today.
Okay, so let's get started. Now, what is very significant, what's so significant about cultural diversity when it comes to development?
Well, let's take it this way to start with. We need to actually understand what is culture. Because that's the key word in this issue. You can't understand cultural diversity without understanding culture first. So sociologically, I'm a sociologist, and sociologically we believe culture, the simple definition without bothering you about the technicality, is to say culture is the totality of a way of life of a group of people. When you see a people is an embodiment of culture. So you cannot separate people from their culture. So culture is about who people are, the total way of life of a group of people. You have material culture, the intangible culture. Culture, material culture like what we wear, intangible culture like our language, things you can see. So that's what culture means.
Okay.
So put it in proper perspective so we are guided as we proceed.
All right. So it's will it be right to say then that culture is about identity?
Certainly, what gives people their identity is the culture. Because it's through the culture of people that you identify. Identity means identification. How you identify people. Your international passport is your identity. So your international passport is part of your culture. That's why our international passport is green.
Okay.
That tells you something.
Then we haven't actually done justice to that particular question. We've defined culture. But why is culture so, important when we talk about development?
Culture is very important because it's within the cultural elements that you appropriate things that you will need to develop. You cannot develop beyond your culture. That's why you see a different people practice different kind of trade, different type of economy, different type of architecture, different type of dressing. If you look at the intro, I was shown to you, see people dressing in different ways. So why? Most essentially, people's way of dressing would depend on their environment. Would depend on who they are. That's why you see somebody in the Middle East, their dressing would certainly be different from our own in the tropical region. Because also what informs people's culture also is their environment. Culture assists people to adapt. It's in the process of their adaptation that culture unfolds. People produce goods and services to meet their needs within their cultural environment. So now let me put it in proper perspective within development framework. You cannot develop if you underestimate your culture. Because all you need, don't forget, culture as the totality of a group of a way of life of a group of people. So what would determine your development trajectory, your development outcome, is the nature of your culture. And that's why sometimes you see. Let me just give you a little statistics. You see, it's on record that most of those countries where you call developed countries today is because they are able to appropriate their cultural element to say what they need and they use it. So when you see countries that are developed, if you study them very well, you will see that they pay more attention to their culture to determine who they are and what they what they need at time, because your culture will tell you what you need and tell you what to do. That's why it's very important for us to pay more attention to our culture rather than looking at what is external to us.
Okay. Dr. Akunle, we'll continue that conversation right after this break.
Morning show. Keep watching back.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Mid-Morning Show here on BCOS television, and we are in conversation with Dr. Olayinka Akanle, who is a sociologist and a researcher with so much experience, in the field.
Before that break, we're talking, you said we should not underestimate our culture. But now, why is culture so diverse? Since it's about our individuality, why do we need to make it, why should there even be diversity in culture?
Well, to start with, variety is the spice of life.
Yes.
By nature, like you were saying when we first started, that imagine you seeing white everywhere you go, seeing blue everywhere you go. It's boring. So by nature, the diversity is very beautiful, and it has so many advantages for societies and people. So, but I don't want to go into some anthropological analysis for our audience. Culture will be diverse naturally because you can have migration. People move from one place to the other.
Yeah.
So when we have what we call cultural diffusion, when cultures come in contact, they can give you hybrid cultural identity. You understand? Then you can have what we call acculturation, where cultures come in contact on the account of movement, and it gives you one can might dominate the other. Then you can have enculturation, which means you are socializing people into their culture. But this diversity can be based on the environment that people are. Don't forget I said people are adapting. So the nature of your physical environment will determine what to develop to cope with that environment, your coping mechanism. Then you also have migration. People move across country, and once they move across country, you see transfer of cultures. Then the cultures become very multiplied in this sense. So let me also define cultural diversity. Simply means multiplicity
Of culture.
Within a specific environment. Multiplicity of cultures within a society or a social system. That's what it means. That means you have more than one in a particular place. And that's why, I love Nigeria. I'd rather be a Nigerian than to be something small out of Nigeria. Because Nigeria is so, even today, the greatest sociologists that try to characterize Nigerian culture in terms of our multiplicity is Professor Tite. We say we are more than 400 different cultures in Nigeria. But now we know we are even more than 1,000.
Wow.
Depending on how much you go to the grassroots.
Yeah.
And that's why anywhere I go in the world, I'm always proud to say I'm a Nigerian. And there's something we call cultural diplomacy. Cultural diplomacy means using your culture to negotiate for relevance or recognition across the world. And anywhere I travel to, once I'm out of this country, this is the way I dress.
Wow.
It doesn't matter where I travel to all over the world, and I try to move around too. And I've dressed like this, or some other African attire. And each time people abroad, whenever they come in contact with me, they celebrate me. You say, wow, you look like royal. You look like this. Sometimes they take my bead away from me as complimentary gifts. And when they come to Nigeria, I give them our fabric. It's appreciated. So this is why culture is so diverse. But it's for us to identify the benefit of this diversity. I say cultural diversity is a solution, not a problem.
You said it's a solution.
It's a solution.
What are those benefits of the cultural diversity in development now?
Let's start from, if you want to look at it across different segments, let's look at the economy. So this is a major main indicator of development that people are familiar with. If you look at the economy, when you have cultural diversity in your system, don't forget I said you appropriate your cultural identity and element and turn it to economic gain. For example, there's something we call creative industry. What does creative industry mean? It simply means you using your cultural element to create wealth. Let me give you an example of Mauritius.
Okay.
In Mauritius today, as many as 25% of Mauritius, the economy is from the research, is from the creative sector, which sometimes we call tourism. 25% of the population works in that environment, and the great, huge money from that area. So why is that? It's just about looking at the environment, the Kongusi of this world, the Erenjesha waterfall of this world, the Doba of this world. Create economy around them. And if we are this so big and we have so much diversity, that means we can turn these cultural clusters, we call them. Because this diversity, they are clusters in their own. There are many things, multiplicity. Then you create clusters around unique element of this multiplicity. And you create economic hub around them. cultural clusters turn to economic hub. Then you generate a lot of money. Now, the current government now in the federal is talking about blue marine economy, blue economy. Did you take the marine, the blue, the ocean seriously before?
No.
Suddenly they discover it's a huge economy. I've been opportune to consult for people in the maritime sector for so long. This is what we've been talking about for about 20, 30 years. That the economics, the blue economy can even overtake our oil sector. The same thing in our creative sector. How can a country have been opportunity to move around Nigeria so much? Anytime I travel across Nigeria, I see massive opportunity in our cultural element. So you can appropriate your cultural elements depending on where you are in the country and create economic hub around them, just like Mauritius. So when you say, okay, you're going for tourism, you mention a country, you go there. That's one. What about our fabric? I tell you, if you see this fabric in the United States, you will buy it in hundreds of dollars. And there's so much in high demand in those places. Because they value culture, but we don't. And it's a shame and very frustrating. You see people weaponizing culture as if our diversity is a problem. I've been teaching cultural diversity and cultural development for many years. And then what I now do is to target my younger ones because the older ones seems to have been in a different element. But those ones that are just coming in, I expose them and bombard them with this information. That's why I celebrate you for bringing this on board today. You should be commended.
Thank you.
Because this is a conversation we need to have as a country and as a state. And each time I expose my students to this issue, they say, wow, sir, nobody has ever told us something like this. We used to look at our culture as a problem. And they give comment about it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's for us to appreciate all of this. Like, don't forget I told you, I'd rather be a Nigerian than with
He said that.
It's a
He said that.
fantastic country with so much cultural diversity. And I carry myself soldier high. Though when you carry your passport abroad, they scan you specially because people have, degraded this country so much that they think we stand for something wrong. But there are so many values, norms, and, normativities, if you like, a lot of things in our culture that separate us from some other people. That if we pay attention to them, that's why if you talk to me and you saying our culture is our problem, our culture is that our problem is that we are too big, we are too many. People now turn population and culture to wealth. Wealth. People used to look at population as a problem, but now population is now a resource. We talk about human resources. China changed the narrative. Used to be a poor country, but now among the richest in the world. Yet they are the most populous. The same way culture, we need to look at it. And Nigeria, as a whole, we need to begin to look at our culture as opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah. I was going to talk about the points you made. You talked about acculturation and all those elements that could lead to change in culture. So if culture evolves, to what extent is globalization a threat?
Globalization, I don't want to sound too technical at the same time. Globalization, there are two perspectives to globalization. What does globalization mean? It means the world becoming a global village. That's what it means, like a bulb. Everybody coming together. But there are also two perspectives to globalization. Some say the more we globalize, the more we're different. Some say the more we globalize, the more we are uniform. So it depends on the perspective. But globalization is not a problem. Because you don't have to say, you can't close yourself up. There is a system of government, there is an economic system we call autarky. Autarky means you are closing your economic system against the outside economic system so that you are able to be protected. China tried that in their development history, but until China opened up to the world, China did not go anywhere. But it opened up all the brands of this world. Most of them are produced in China. So globalization is not a problem for me. It's just for us in development practice. I'm a development sociologist. I will say the best thing we can do is to see advantages in globalization and position ourselves. The problem is that we are not positioned.
Is it because we lack the orientation or we are not fully aware of what dividends we can get out of it?
We lack the orientation, we lack the consciousness, and we are poorly positioned to take advantage of all of this. We have to be ready. And I'm not talking about maybe the president, the governor alone. All of us. Okay, why did I told you about cultural advocacy. Each time I travel this way. Nobody told me to do that. And I saw new ones. I just came back from a trip abroad. I always saw new sets. If I'm going to be there for 1 week, I saw 7. One every day. And my host, I will package a gift like this too. And you always appreciate it. Are you with me?
Yes.
So there's something we call cultural awareness. We need to first be aware. Some people are so oblivion of this culture. We just live our life randomly. You know, but we need to be very aware. When you are culturally aware, then you culturally appreciate. When you culturally appreciate, you culturally accommodate. When you culturally accommodate, you culturally appropriate. But if you are not aware, are you with me? How do you appreciate? If you don't appreciate, how do you accommodate? If you don't accommodate, how do you appropriate? And it's when you appropriate that you then use it for development. So you say, okay, I can use this thing for this one. Are you with me? For example, I'm using personal examples so that people can see if I don't like talking at the theory level. For example, each time I travel abroad and I engage in cultural advocacy, I get compliment. I've never been dragged for once overseas. Are you with me? And they will celebrate me. And from there, I begin to get a lot of accolade, and my sense of worth will increase. So now look at it. UNESCO, you know, tomorrow is the UNESCO Day of Cultural Diversity. Why is UNESCO talking about cultural diversity? Because cultural diversity in itself has a lot of opportunities in it, which you can use to develop in terms of sustainable development. None of the sustainable development goals will be achieved without paying attention to culture. Don't forget I said culture is a total way of life of a group of people. So if you're not paying attention to culture, that means you are deciding the total way of life of people. People you want to develop, people you want to use for development, you are disregarding them. Then, you ask me a question, how can we use cultural diversity to develop?
Yeah.
I want to answer again. I've answered partly. Let me answer again. UNESCO believes that one of the greatest reasons we are having conflict and insecurity is because of poor intercultural dialogue. Are you with me?
Yeah.
That if we understand the diversity of culture and we engage, you understand my culture, I understand your own, there will be no conflict at all. Poor appreciation and poor understanding of one another based on our cultural identity is why we have conflict. And researchers have shown, and UNESCO has actually documented this, that when you look at 3/4 or 89%, I'm not saying 89% is 3/4, I'm not saying at the highest 89% or 3/4 of places where you are having conflict, insecurity, and crisis, these are societies where they don't appreciate, there is no intercultural dialogue. There's no intercultural communication. They don't understand one another. So that means we can use our cultural diversity to drive progress, growth, development, and security. That's another use of cultural diversity.
That's something.
That's something.
Especially when you consider what we've been witnessing and experiencing in Nigeria.
Nigeria.
And that's why I brought